They've kept your greatest power hidden, calling it myth and superstition. From the moment you arrived in this world, you were trained to look outside yourself for answers, to seek meaning in noise, to put your faith in systems designed not to set you free, but to keep you asleep. But buried deep within you is something ancient, something undeniable, a force curled at the base of your spine, coiled like a serpent waiting patiently. They told you it was just a story, a fantasy for mystics, or worse, something dangerous. Yet across thousands of years and countless cultures, this same energy appears again and again, whispered in symbols by yogis, seers, and sages. They all knew about it. They all revered it, because awakening this force changes everything. This isn't about trendy meditations, flashy chakra charts, or new age catchphrases. This is about truth, raw, electric, and impossible to ignore. And then once you feel it move inside you, your life will never be the same. For centuries, humanity has been taught to chase power outside of itself through religion, politics, social status, or self-proclaimed gurus. But what if the real power has always been inside you, dormant, waiting to rise? Kundalini isn't a spiritual buzzword tossed around yoga classes or written in cryptic books. It's a living energy technology, an ancient intelligence embedded in your biology. Revered by mystics, hidden by empires, misunderstood by the modern world, not because it lacks truth, but because it holds so much of it. Think about it: if everyone knew this force existed within them, entire systems built on your confusion would crumble overnight. Because Kundalini isn't about belief, it's about experience. It is the primal life force itself, coiled like a serpent at the base of your spine, waiting to uncoil and rise, shifting your perception, your emotions, your consciousness. The ancient yogis of India mapped this process in incredible detail long before the word neuroscience even existed. They described chakras not as pretty symbols, but as gateways, each one tied to stages of human development, psychological growth, and spiritual embodiment. They didn't imagine this. They lived it. But over time, this knowledge was buried. Colonial powers, rigid religions, and fearful institutions played their part, stripping the sacred from the scientific, labeling inner experience as superstition. Even the symbol of the serpent was twisted in yogic tradition. The serpent represents transformation, awakening, enlightenment. In Western theology, it became a villain, something to fear, reject, or destroy. The very image that once guided people to higher consciousness was weaponized to keep them in spiritual infancy. What better way to keep someone small than to convince them their own awakening is dangerous? What better way to control people than to make the sacred forbidden? And yet the energy never disappeared. It lives quietly in everyone. You don't need to be a monk or a guru to carry Kundalini. It's in you right now, woven into your breath, your nerves, your cells. The only question is, will you ever choose to activate it? Some truths are too raw, too powerful, too real to fully explore on platforms like this. If you feel called to go deeper, sign up for Insights Academy, our free newsletter, link below, and you'll also get a digital copy of the Kabbalion. But know this: Kundalini is not a trend. It's not here to make you feel spiritual. It's here to transform you. Kundalini doesn't ask for followers. It demands seekers, people ready to strip away false identities, question what they've been told, and face what lies beneath. That's why you won't find this knowledge in your school curriculum. That's why it's not splashed across headlines or celebrated in mainstream spiritual circles. Because it doesn't sell obedience, it shatters it. Once Kundalini begins to stir inside, you fear loses its grip. Conformity loses its shine. Superficial desires lose their hold. You start seeing with new eyes, thinking with new clarity, feeling with new depth. But Kundalini doesn't play nice. It amplifies what's already inside you. If you're grounded, humble, open, it can guide you through profound transformation. But if you're reckless, arrogant, unprepared, it can magnify your confusion. This is why traditions throughout history required discipline, purification, and readiness before initiation. Not to keep people away, but to protect them. Because when the serpent rises, it doesn't just bring light. It brings everything: your shadows, your old wounds, your deepest fears. That's where the real work begins. So ask yourself, do you really want to awaken? Not just to the blissful parts, but to the whole truth of who you are and who you've been conditioned to be, because Kundalini doesn't let you cherry pick the pretty parts. It's not an escape from reality. It's a journey into the deepest layers of it. And once it starts, you can't go back to sleep. Kundalini isn't something made up to sell you a course or give you a sense of spiritual status. It's real, it's alive, and it's already inside you. But what Kundalini truly is, and what it's not, has been twisted and misunderstood for centuries. The truth doesn't fit neatly into social media quotes or pop spiritual books. Kundalini is the raw, unfiltered energy of consciousness itself, an ancient biological intelligence that every human carries. At its essence, Kundalini is the life force in its purest form. It's not your thoughts, habits, or personality. It's what powers all of them. It sits coiled at the base of your spine in what yogic philosophy calls the Muladhara chakra. But don't mistake that for a cute symbol. It's an anatomical spiritual code. Kundalini is right there embedded in your nervous system, silent but waiting. And when it awakens, it moves not chaotically but purposefully through your body's subtle channels, activating parts of you that have been asleep for a lifetime, your intuition, your emotions, your senses, even your biology. But here's where it gets tricky. It's not Kundalini that's dangerous. It's the myths we've been taught about it. In the modern West, Kundalini has been packaged as a quick fix, a flashy trend, a shortcut to spiritual status. You'll see workshops promising activation in a single weekend classes, selling instant enlightenment gurus, marketing it as an accessory for your spiritual image. That's not awakening. That's performance. Real Kundalini awakening isn't an event. It's a process, a raw, messy, profound process. And it's rarely glamorous. Because real awakening is rarely pretty. It's not a polished moment you can show off online. It's a tearing open of everything false, a collapse of the illusions you've clung to, a confrontation with every story you've told yourself to feel safe. It means surrendering your carefully constructed identity, who you think you are, what you think you know, and what you've been afraid to see. That's what Kundalini does. It burns through who you were so it can reveal who you've always been. It's not here to entertain you with mystical highs. It's here to transform you from the inside out. And true transformation doesn't come with comfort. It comes with exposure. Kundalini brings everything to the surface, your grief, your rage, your shame, your deepest fears. That's why sacred traditions protected it with strict practices. Not because Kundalini is inherently dangerous, but because it's powerful enough to shatter illusions, powerful enough to force you to face what you've buried. And yes, it's for everyone, not just monks or gurus. It's for anyone who has the courage to look inside. But it asks something you can't fake: total honesty. This isn't about how many books you've read, how many mantras you've memorized, or how spiritual you appear to others. This is about whether you're willing to get real with yourself. Because Kundalini doesn't respond to performance. It doesn't care about your white robes or your social media posts about enlightenment. It rises when your mind quiets, your heart opens, and your body becomes a steady, receptive vessel. It rises when you stop trying to control it and start surrendering to what's already inside you. Kundalini doesn't give you shortcuts. It doesn't bypass your pain. If anything, it puts a spotlight on everything you've tried to outrun. That's why people who awaken without preparation often feel lost, overwhelmed, or even terrified. It's not because Kundalini is punishing them. It's because it magnifies what hasn't been healed yet. It forces you to feel what you've been avoiding. And if you've spent years or lifetimes hiding from yourself, that sudden exposure can feel like chaos. But that chaos is sacred. It clears the debris so the truth can emerge. Because Kundalini isn't here to give you spiritual status. It's here to give you freedom. And freedom doesn't come from escaping your humanity. It comes from embracing it fully. When Kundalini moves, it doesn't just shift your mood. It rewires your entire way of being. It demands presence. It transforms how you relate to your thoughts, your body, your choices. It burns away illusions until what's left is real, raw, awake, and alive. There's a myth that Kundalini awakening is like flipping a switch, that one day you're asleep, the next day you're enlightened. But the reality is far more complex. When Kundalini stirs, it doesn't announce itself gently. It moves in waves, powerful and unpredictable. And when it does, your body becomes both the temple and the battlefield. Some people feel intense heat rising through their spine like fire moving through their bones. Others experience trembling tears, laughter, or moments of complete stillness. These aren't signs of insanity. They're signs that something ancient is waking up. Kundalini doesn't rise because of logic or intellectual understanding. It rises through surrender. And surrender is terrifying for the ego because it means letting go of control, letting go of certainty, letting go of the stories you've told yourself. When Kundalini moves, it doesn't care who you think you are. It wants what's real. It pushes your shadows to the surface, the grief you never processed, the anger you've hidden, the beliefs you've inherited but never questioned. And this is where many people get confused. They expect fireworks and bliss. Instead, they're met with the raw truth of their own unresolved wounds. But this isn't failure. It's the real initiation. Awakening isn't always beautiful. Often it's chaotic, disorienting, even painful. You might lose interest in things you used to obsess over. You might feel disconnected from relationships that were built in a version of you that no longer exists. You might feel lost or detached from the world around you. That doesn't mean you're failing. It means you're transforming. Because Kundalini doesn't just change your mind. It changes your entire way of existing. And yet, even amidst the chaos, there will be moments of peace so deep, moments of clarity so sharp, that you know something sacred is happening. You'll feel a stillness inside you that makes no sense of knowing, that goes beyond words, a connection to something vast and eternal. These moments are not the end goal. They are reminders that the pain serves a purpose, that you're not falling apart, you're being rebuilt. But the problem is, modern spirituality rarely prepares people for this. It sells awakening as a performance, a shiny experience to post online, a new identity to wear. But Kundalini isn't interested in your performance. It's interested in your truth. Are you willing to face what you've disowned? Are you ready to feel what you've numbed for years? Are you prepared to walk away from the familiar illusions that keep you small so you can meet the vastness of who you really are? This is why ancient traditions insisted on discipline before awakening. Not to keep people out, but to protect them. Because once Kundalini begins to move, there's no going back. You either evolve with it or you get caught in the resistance to it. Preparation isn't a luxury, it's essential. Your body must be ready to hold the intensity. Your mind must be steady enough to witness what unfolds. Your heart must be willing to let go of everything that can't come with you. Some awakenings happen gradually, like a slow rising tide. Others strike like lightning, sudden, shocking, undeniable. There's no single path, but your soul knows what's needed. Your role isn't to control the timing, it's to make yourself available, to clear the noise, to cultivate stillness, to build awareness so when the energy rises, you can meet it with reverence instead of fear. Because that's what this process is ultimately about: reverence. Not for any tradition or teacher, but for life itself, for the sacred current that pulses in your spine waiting to be remembered. Kundalini doesn't need you to chase it. It needs you to become ready for it. And readiness doesn't mean perfection. It means presence, humility, and honesty. Because Kundalini doesn't awaken you to escape life. It awakens you to fully enter it, to inhabit your body, to feel your emotions, to see the sacred in every moment, to become more human, not less. Long before the word Kundalini was ever spoken in English, ancient cultures were already working with it, revering it, and building entire spiritual systems around it. They didn't call it energy the way we do today, but they knew it. They felt it. They lived it. Because they understood something we've forgotten: within the human body lies the key to transcending the human condition. And that power was never outside of you. It was always inside. In ancient India, yogis described Kundalini as the sacred feminine force, Shakti, coiled like a serpent at the base of the spine, waiting to rise and reunite with Shiva, the divine masculine, at the crown. This wasn't a myth. It was sacred science. The entire system of chakras, nadis, mantras, and mudras was created to support this inner resurrection. Yogis devoted years, sometimes lifetimes, to preparing their bodies and minds, not for status or show, but to hold the immense power of this awakening. But India wasn't alone. Across continents and cultures, the symbols appear too consistently to be coincidence. In ancient Egypt, the uraeus, the cobra, rising from the foreheads of pharaohs, wasn't just decorative. It represented awakened consciousness, the serpent energy ascending the spine to activate the third eye. The Eye of Horus wasn't merely a protective symbol, it was a map of inner vision. In Greece, the staff of Hermes, or Caduceus, shows two serpents intertwining around a central rod, a mirror image of the Ida and Pingala nadis of yogic anatomy. And in early Gnostic Christianity, before councils reshaped the narrative, there were whispers of the sacred feminine Sophia, recognized as the source of divine wisdom within. These aren't random symbols. They're universal reminders, hidden in plain sight, pointing to the same ancient truth. As power centralized, these symbols were distorted. The serpent, once a guide for initiates, was recast as an emblem of evil. The sacred feminine was demonized. The body became shameful. And the divine energy within us was pushed into the shadows. Not because it wasn't real, but because it was powerful. Because colonialism, religion, and rigid science dismantled indigenous knowledge, dismissing it as primitive, while replacing it with systems built on control, not liberation. Yet the symbols survive spirals, serpents' trees, eyes hidden in art architecture and myth. They've waited quietly, reminding anyone ready to see that awakening is an ancient birthright. And now people around the world are remembering. They're feeling stirrings in their bodies, having dreams of rising energy, experiencing spontaneous awakenings they can't explain. They're recalling what their ancestors once lived. We were never meant to stay asleep. You don't need to become someone else to awaken. You need to remember who you were before you forgot. The hidden history of Kundalini isn't just a story of the past, it's a mirror for the present. It shows us what was stolen and what still lives inside us. It reminds us that the upward journey isn't new. It's ancient, sacred, and woven into your very being. And no matter how long it's been buried, the truth always finds a way to return. All it needs is someone willing to receive it. If Kundalini is the serpent, the chakras are the gates it must pass through, and the nadis are the hidden rivers that carry its fire. This isn't abstract mysticism. It's an energetic anatomy described with astonishing precision by sages thousands of years ago. The body isn't just flesh and bone. It's a multidimensional field of consciousness, and the systems of Kundalini are the blueprint for activating it. There are said to be over 72,000 nadi subtle channels of energy crisscrossing the human system like an invisible web. Three are the most vital: Ida, Pingala, and Sushumna. Ida flows along the left side of the spine, linked to the moon and the cooling feminine force. Pingala runs along the right, tied to the sun and the warming masculine energy. And in the center lies Sushumna, the channel through which Kundalini rises. When these dual forces come into balance and duality dissolves, the serpent moves upward, awakening each chakra along the way. These chakras aren't decorative symbols for yoga posters. Each is a complex interface between your body, mind, and soul. The root chakra shapes your sense of safety. The sacral influences emotion and creativity. The solar plexus directs will and identity. The heart opens compassion and connection. The throat governs truth. The third eye sharpens perception and intuition. And the crown connects you to the divine. But here's the secret awakening. The chakras isn't about pretty visualizations or chanting affirmations. It's about dismantling what blocks them. When Kundalini reaches a chakra, it doesn't just activate it, it cleanses it. That's why awakening can be messy. Intense emotions, vivid dreams, physical sensations, these aren't random. They're the old stuck patterns being shaken loose so energy can flow freely again. Each chakra relates not just to parts of your body or emotions, but to developmental stages of your life. The lower chakras hold imprints from early childhood, your sense of safety, belonging, individuality. If those phases were painful or incomplete, energy can become trapped there, repeating patterns until they're finally faced and released. That's why Kundalini's ascent isn't a straight climb. It's a spiral, a dance. You revisit wounds, clear them layer by layer, until the energy can rise unobstructed. This process isn't linear. One day you feel expansive. The next you're plunged into shadow. That cycle isn't failure. It's purification. It continues until energy flows not just through your spine, but through your life. Because the goal isn't to escape the body, it's to bring light into it. Not to transcend your humanity, but to illuminate it. When the chakras are awakened, aligned, and balanced, not in theory, but in lived experience, Kundalini reaches the crown. This isn't an ending. It's the beginning of a new existence. A way of moving through the world with a stillness that doesn't waver, a presence that doesn't flinch, and a love that isn't dependent on circumstances. It's the embodiment of enlightenment, not floating away from life, but arriving fully into it. You are not broken. You are not here by accident. You are a layered, luminous being carrying stories across lifetimes. Kundalini knows the path home because it's encoded in you. The chakras aren't just symbols, they're your map. When you stop chasing power outside yourself and start tending to the temple within, that map comes alive, and your true journey begins.